The betrayal that wasn't loud, but silent. The text message glowed on Eleanor. Ellie. Vance's kitchen counter like a burning ember. Already miss you. Last night was perfect. Same time next week? She read it 3 times. Each instance hoping the words would rearrange themselves into something less devastating. They didn't, and it wasn't for her. Ethan, her husband of 13 years, had left his phone unlocked while he was in the shower, getting ready for yet another alleged late meeting. For 13 years, Ellie had never snooped. Trust, she believed, was the bedrock of their Seattle life. Or so she thought. Outside, the unrelenting Washington rain lashed against the windows of their suburban home, a sound that used to bring her peace. Now, it felt like a judgment, every drop an echo of her sudden, brutal foolishness. How long had she been living this lie? She wanted to scream, but her throat felt lined with glass. Her knees buckled as she gripped the granite countertop to stay upright. The betrayal didn't just hurt. It tore her apart from the inside. Her lungs refused to fully fill, as if even the air in the house was shrinking from what she had just discovered. A shout came from upstairs. "Mom, help! Spider-Man is stuck under the bed again!" The innocent, cheerful shout from Leo, her 7-year-old son, was a lifeline that anchored her while everything else dissolved. The kitchen, her kitchen, with its neat lavender pots and expensive marble, suddenly felt alien, like a set piece for the woman she pretended to be. Ellie's hands trembled as she returned the phone exactly where she had found it. Her reflection in the dark window glass caught her attention. Pale face, brown hair, green eyes that were now empty. Familiar, yet distant. She had once seen strength in those eyes, determination, passion. But now, all she saw was fatigue etched into every line. When had the woman who knew how to laugh loudly and fight fiercely faded, leaving behind someone who only knew how to accommodate and sacrifice? The shower turned off upstairs. In the thick silence, she heard Ethan humming, the same tune he always hummed when he was in a good mood. Why wouldn't he be? He had everything. A thriving business, a beautiful home, a loyal wife, a happy son, and apparently, someone else making his nights perfect. Do you think Ellie should have confronted Ethan right there, or was she right to wait? Drop your opinion in the comments. The quiet escape. The following 3 days passed in a blur. On autopilot, Ellie made Leo's lunch, dropped him at school with a practiced smile, and stood at the door each morning as Ethan left, acting as if nothing had changed. But everything had. The messages she had found had thrown open a door. Now, everything clicked. The late nights, the weekend trips, the cologne she didn't recognize, the unused gym subscription. On the 4th morning, stirring an untouched cup of coffee, her phone vibrated. Her mother, Martha's, voice came through the speaker. "Ellie, sweetheart, are you there? You haven't answered any of my calls." "Mom." The word came out as a whisper, then a sob. Once it started, she couldn't stop it. Her cup slipped from her hand and shattered on the white tile floor. The dark liquid spilled like secrets revealed. "I'm coming over," Martha declared. Her tone allowed for no argument. 40 minutes later, the front door clicked. Martha stood in the kitchen doorway, seeing the wreckage on the floor, both ceramic and emotional. In seconds, she was kneeling next to her daughter, holding her just as she had during childhood fevers. "He's cheating on me!" The words tore from Ellie's throat like glass shards. "I saw the messages. I know she's 27 and a junior associate. Her name is Sophia." Martha's embrace only tightened. "Have you confronted him?" Ellie shook her head, her tired hair falling across her cheek. "I can't. Because of Leo, I don't know how." "How long can you keep protecting Leo by destroying yourself?" Martha's question settled in the air, heavy and unmoving. Martha swept the broken cup, made a new pot of coffee, and pushed a plate of toast toward her daughter. A message vibrated on Ellie's phone. "Ethan, working late tonight, don't wait up." "Pack a bag," Martha said, her voice quiet but firm. You and Leo are coming home with me for a while. You don't need to make a final decision. Not yet. But you do need space. You need to remember who you are without him. Ellie looked around the kitchen. She had chosen every drawer pull, painted those walls herself. But now everything looked tainted by the betrayal. "Okay," she whispered. And for the first time in days, she felt something other than pain. Maybe it was fear. Maybe hope. But it was something. Reclaiming the self. 5 days passed at her parents' quiet home in a quieter, older neighborhood near Seattle's Lake Union. Leo had adjusted quickly, marveling at Grandpa George's legendary pancake stacks and spending hours in the backyard treehouse. But when night fell, his voice would cut through the darkness. "When are we going home, Mommy?" On the 6th morning, Ellie found her father, George, already outside, tending to Martha's prized rose bushes. "Couldn't sleep either." His voice, always solid, came softly across the dew-speckled lawn. George made room for her on the wooden bench. "I keep thinking about all the signs I ignored, the gut feelings I buried. Was I really that blind, Dad? Or did I just not want to see?" George paused, pruning shears still in his hands. "Sometimes, love doesn't blind us, Elle. It just makes us hopeful. And hope can look a lot like denial if you hold on to it too tight." Ellie is taking steps for herself for the first time in years. What do you think will be the biggest challenge she faces on this new path? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like this video. "You're still you," George said firmly. "You're still the woman who convinced the town to save that old bookstore when the developer came. Ethan didn't give you that value, and he can't take it away." A silver BMW pulled up to the curb. Ethan stepped out, impeccable in his designer suit, holding an overly expensive bouquet of lilies. "I'll handle this," George said quietly, rising to meet him. From the bench, Ellie heard the words. Ethan's hurried pleas, George's unshakable firmness. "She needs time, Ethan." "Time for what? I have a right to see my son." "Yes," George said calmly. "You have rights as Leo's father, but you gave up your right to my daughter's peace of mind the moment you decided to share your life with someone else." The bouquet slipped from Ethan's fingers, falling silently onto the grass. He looked over George's shoulder toward the bench. His eyes met Ellie's across the yard. "Tell Leo I love him." That was all he said. Then Ethan turned and walked back to his car. George sat down beside her again. "You know what else your mother used to say about the roses? Even after the hardest winters, they always find a way to bloom again." "Pancakes with blueberries?" she asked, a small smile returning. "And maybe later," she added softly. "We could look at some therapy options. I think I need help finding my way." "Back?" George asked. "No," Ellie replied. "Not back. Forward, to whatever comes next." The strength to speak the truth. The parent-teacher conference wasn't supposed to feel like a battleground. Ellie arrived early at Leo's school, her new navy pantsuit giving her a confidence she didn't quite feel yet. Ethan was already there. "You look different," he said, straightening up. "I am different." The words came out stronger than she expected. During the meeting, Leo's teacher mentioned gently that he was drawing a lot of houses lately. One is labeled Grandma and Grandpa's house, another Daddy's house. He seems unsure where home is. "Well, he wouldn't be confused if his mother hadn't suddenly decided to abandon our family," Ethan said, his usual charm laced with ice. "I didn't abandon anyone," Ellie said calmly, her voice firm and level. "I took our son out of a toxic environment." He followed her out to the parking lot. "Sophia and I broke up," he said abruptly, as if offering a truce. "I made a mistake, a horrible one. But you can't just walk away from 13 years of marriage without even trying to fix it. The woman you married doesn't exist anymore," she cut him off. "She died the day I saw those messages. And you know what? I'm glad. Because that woman spent so much time trying to be perfect for you. She forgot to be real for herself." So this is about your self-discovery now? His tone dripped sarcasm. Or is it about that guy you've been having breakfast with? His name is Jamie, she said calmly. And he's someone who understands loss. But this isn't about Jamie. This is about me. Finally realizing I am worth more than being someone's contingency plan, she lifted her hand, firm as steel. Stop. You didn't give me a perfect life, Ethan. You gave me a perfect prison, and I'd rather be alone and real than trapped and admired. As she drove away, she knew she had established a new boundary. She opened her notebook from her therapist, Dr. Evelyn Cole. I stood my ground, felt terrified, empowered, free. The new home. The court-ordered mediation session was not a battle. It was a conversation focused on Leo's needs. By the afternoon, they had finalized a joint custody agreement, emphasizing structure, openness, and peace. Outside the courthouse, Ethan caught up to her. Ellie, wait. I've been seeing a therapist, he said quietly. She helped me understand. I didn't just betray you with Sophia. I betrayed you every time I made you smaller, just so I could feel bigger. Thank you for saying that. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he added. But I want to be a better father, and I want Leo to see me respect his mother. Her phone buzzed with a text from her new friend, Jamie. Proud of you, honey. Leo is asking when his brave mom is coming home. A second later, another text. Tuesday, breakfast. She smiled. Wouldn't miss it. I have something important to share. And it was important. Not just the agreement they signed, but the lease she had finalized yesterday on a cozy 2-bedroom apartment near Leo's school. Her first, completely independent choice. A space where she and her son could build their version of peace, where she could finally stretch her wings without hitting anyone else's walls. On moving day, her parents and Jamie helped her move in. As the day faded, Ellie stood in her half-furnished living room with Jamie, drinking coffee. I've been thinking about what you said, she began. About storms and deeper roots. I think I finally get it. The storm didn't destroy me. It just showed me how strong my roots already were, and where new ones needed to grow. My wife used to say that healing isn't about going back to who you were, Jamie said. It's about growing into who you are meant to be. Later, alone in her new home, Ellie opened Dr. Cole's notebook one last time. She wrote, Today I realized something. This journey wasn't about finding a new love story. It was about loving myself enough to finally write my own. She walked to her bedroom window, letting the cool night air in. She was here, in this space she had carved out with courage, not just surviving, but flourishing. Not just healing, but transforming. Not just existing, but finally, truly living. The meaningful conclusion. Dear friend, it's easy to believe that strength means never falling apart. But the truth is, real strength is shown in the quiet, persistent act of putting the pieces back together, even when your hands are still shaking. Like Ellie, we all carry the weight of old stories. But here's what the Stoics remind us. You are not harmed by what happens to you, but by your judgment of it. Life's disruptions don't define you, they refine you. You get to choose which seeds take root in the soil of your survival. And when you choose growth, self-love, and truth, you don't just rebuild, you rise. You are not going backward, you are becoming. If this story resonated with you, please hit like, share it, and subscribe to our channel. Someone else might need this as much as you do. Part 4. The Courage of New Beginnings. The clock in the new kitchen showed 7:45 a.m. It was Tuesday. Ellie stood by the counter, sipping coffee from one of the mismatched mugs Jamie had helped her carry in. The apartment still smelled faintly of fresh paint and cardboard, but the morning sun, slicing through the bare windows, was warm and full of promise. Leo was at school, and the silence was no longer heavy with dread, but light with possibility. She smoothed the front of her bright coral sweater, a piece she had bought just for herself. Yet, a knot of familiar anxiety tightened in her stomach. It wasn't about the custody agreement. That was settled. It was about today's breakfast. She and Jamie had established a pattern built on shared pain and easy honesty. He had been a safe harbor, a steady presence who expected nothing. But today, Ellie felt a shift. She was no longer just the woman recovering from a prison. She was a woman building a future. And sharing that future with him, even in the smallest way, felt like a risk. What if he sees my new stability and thinks I'm suddenly available? What if his kindness was just empathy, and my hope is misplaced? She grabbed her keys and the leather-bound notebook from Dr. Cole. She was no longer running from something. She was walking toward something, and that required a different kind of bravery. The Tuesday morning confession. The local cafe was bustling, smelling of toasted bagels and espresso. Jamie was waiting in their usual booth, a familiar flannel shirt. Today, a dark forest green, and a book resting on the table. He looked up, and his smile was a genuine, non-pressuring welcome. There she is. I was starting to think I'd have to send out a search party. Sorry, Ellie said, sliding into the booth. Mornings are still a new choreography in the new place. New place, he repeated, his eyes soft. That was the important news, wasn't it? She nodded, ordering a latte and settling in. I signed the lease. Leo and I moved out over the weekend. Full joint physical and legal custody agreed upon, centered entirely on Leo's best interest. Ethan is trying to figure things out. Jamie just watched her, his expression unreadable, waiting. Ellie took a deep breath. I wanted to tell you because your belief that I was strong enough to do it. It actually helped me do it. You were my Monday morning pep talk, even on Tuesdays. He chuckled softly. You did that all on your own, Ellie. I just held the space for the noise. The noise is gone now, mostly, she admitted. And that's why this is hard. I'm no longer the broken woman at the coffee shop. I'm me, building things. And I need to ask you something. Ellie looked him straight in the eye. Thank you for the kindness, the conversation, and the pancakes. It meant the world. But right now, this new space I'm building, it has to be just mine and Leo's for a while. I need to know what being whole feels like before I invite anyone new to share it. The cafe noise seemed to vanish. Jamie didn't flinch, didn't look hurt or surprised. He simply nodded, his eyes warm. That, he said, tapping his fingers lightly on the table, is the wisest, bravest, and most important decision you could possibly make, and I respect you completely for it. He paused, then added gently, You see, Ellie, my wife, Claire, taught me that sometimes the greatest act of love is giving someone the room to become who they need to be, whether that's mourning a loss or celebrating a new beginning. We've been friends in the waiting room of grief. Now it's time for you to walk into the future. He pushed a small, wrapped gift across the table. It was a single, tiny rose bush in a terracotta pot. A housewarming gift from my garden, he said, for your new windowsill. A reminder that sometimes you have to be both the gardener and the rose. Ellie felt a wash of relief and gratitude so profound, it almost brought her to tears. Does this mean I lose my Tuesday breakfast, buddy? She asked, her voice tight with emotion. Jamie smiled. It means I'll still be here at 8 a.m. every Tuesday, and I'll leave the booth open. When you're ready to share your story again, or just talk about the weather, I'll be here. No pressure, just here. What do you think of Ellie's decision to pause her budding friendship with Jamie to prioritize her own healing? Is it a necessary step for self-discovery, or is she isolating herself? Share your thoughts in the comments. The quiet art of being the gardener. Ellie drove home feeling lighter than she had in months. She placed the tiny rose bush on her new kitchen counter. That evening, after Leo was asleep, she put on a playlist of music she hadn't listened to since college. Loud, unapologetic, and began unpacking the last few boxes. In one box marked Old Memories, she found a faded flyer, a proposal for a crisis center for struggling families she had drafted right out of university. That was the passion Ethan had slowly extinguished, labeling it impractical. Ellie sat on the floor, the memory of her younger self, the fierce, fearless girl, washing over her. The woman Ethan called too much was the woman she had to reclaim. She picked up the notebook from Dr. Cole and wrote her final entry, now feeling the words resonate deep in her bones. Entry 58. Tuesday. I faced my two greatest fears today, Ethan's anger and the potential of a new connection. But the real win was seeing both clearly. Ethan's anger is his own. And the potential with Jamie? That's still there, waiting. I don't need to push it or pull it. I just need to exist. I realized that my biggest betrayal wasn't staying with Ethan. It was abandoning the girl who wanted to open that crisis center. It was allowing myself to be made smaller. Today, I chose myself. Not over Leo, not over a man, but over the fear of being alone and real. I have no roadmap, but I have a home, and I have my fierce self again. She closed the notebook, took a Sharpie, and wrote a single word across the cover. Forward. Ellie stood up, the loud music vibrating through the floorboards. She picked up the old, faded flyer and taped it to the blank wall above her desk. It was time to stop being the background character in someone else's life and start designing the set for her own. The journey ahead was uncertain. It would be filled with solo parenting challenges, co-parenting compromises, and the slow, necessary work of building a life from scratch. But tonight, surrounded by boxes of her own choices and the scent of a tiny new rose, Ellie felt the quiet, powerful truth. She was home. Part 5. The architect of her own life. 6 months had passed. The scent of paint and cardboard in Ellie's apartment had been replaced by the comforting aroma of home-cooked meals and lavender from Jamie's little rosebush, now thriving on the kitchen sill. The apartment, no longer a temporary stop, felt like a launching pad. Ellie had started a part-time job as a case coordinator at a local non-profit that specialized in family transitions, a safe, stepping-stone version of the crisis center she dreamed of. It was demanding, sometimes heartbreaking work, but it filled the void that Ethan's perfect prison had created. She was finally using her skills, feeling purposeful, and laughing, really laughing with her colleagues. Leo was flourishing. The three-house drawings had been replaced by vibrant pictures of his school, his friends, and a new, single house labeled Our Home, with Ellie and him drawn right in the middle, smiling. The stability, not the location, had made the difference. The new rules of co-parenting. Her relationship with Ethan had settled into a fragile, business-like truce, dictated by the joint custody agreement. Pickups and drop-offs were efficient, conducted mostly via text, minimizing the friction. One Friday afternoon, Ethan arrived at Ellie's apartment to pick up Leo. He didn't knock, but used the new protocol. A quick text followed by a pause on the welcome mat. "Hey, Dad!" Leo shouted, grabbing his Spider-Man backpack. "Hey, buddy, ready for our weekend trip?" Ethan ruffled his hair. He looked around the small entryway, noting the artwork that covered the blank walls, Leo's vibrant paintings, and an inspirational quote Ellie had framed. The space was smaller, yet somehow bigger. "You're doing well, Elle," Ethan said, the words surprising them both. They lacked his usual competitive edge. "We are," Ellie corrected gently. "Leo is doing great at school. I'm happy to see you're keeping up with the counselor's recommendations." Ethan sighed, leaning against the doorframe. "I'm still in therapy, too. It turns out it's harder to manage a healthy relationship with a 7-year-old than it is to manage a global portfolio." He sees right through the performance. Ellie felt a pang of sympathy, quickly guarded. Leo needs consistency, not performance, and he needs to see his father respect his mother. I am trying, he insisted, looking directly at her. I ran into Jamie at the hardware store the other day. Nice guy. He said you were building an empire. I almost laughed. The casual mention of Jamie stung, reminding Ellie of the boundary she had erected. I'm building my life, Ethan, and that's all. Can you just focus on your time with Leo? Right. The empire, he conceded, taking Leo's hand. Look, my firm is having a holiday party next month. It's always an elaborate family thing. Do you think for Leo's sake, you might consider coming? Just for an hour. To keep the appearance of a unit? It's important for my clients to see. Ellie cut him off, her voice calm but firm. No, Ethan. We are no longer a unit that you can present to your clients. We are co-parents. I will not step back into a role to manage your professional image. If you want to talk about Leo's well-being, text me. If you want me to wear a dress and pretend, the answer is no. He looked deflated. He had used this tactic, the appeal to public image, on the old Ellie for years. It didn't work anymore. Got it, he mumbled, defeated. We'll stick to mini-golf. Come on, champion. As the door closed, Ellie leaned against the wall, taking a deep, satisfying breath. She hadn't shouted. She hadn't wavered. She had simply stated the truth and maintained her border. The old guilt was silent. The new strength was loud. What do you think is the key to Ellie's new strength? Her time with the therapist, her job, or the solid support from her family? Let us know in the comments. The unpressured reunion. 2 weeks later, on a snowy Tuesday morning, Ellie was running late. She grabbed her briefcase and flew out the door. She reached the familiar cafe, frantic. She hadn't seen Jamie in 3 weeks, not since she needed to catch up on a heavy work project. She saw him immediately, sitting in the booth alone. I am so sorry, she gasped, sliding into the seat. Work has been insane, and I didn't even check to see if you were still waiting. I understand if you gave up. Jamie smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. He pushed a fresh cup of coffee towards her. The rule still stands, Ellie. No pressure. I'm here every Tuesday with or without an audience. I'm just reading. He held up his book, a collection of poetry. I'm here, she said, leaning back. My first official break in 3 weeks, and I just said no to Ethan's attempt to use me. Desiree at his work party. Good, Jamie said simply. It sounds like you're not just planting your own roots. You're building a fence around the garden, too. Ellie laughed, a full, uninhibited sound. It's the only way the rose is going to survive the winter, right? They fell into a comfortable silence, neither of them scrambling to fill it. It felt natural, a quiet appreciation of two people being authentically present. So, Jamie began, looking out at the snow falling softly against the window. How's the job at the nonprofit? Still building that empire? Ellie's eyes lit up. It's better than an empire. It's real. I've been working with a grant writer on a proposal for a transitional family shelter. The initial concept of my crisis center. It's only a feasibility study, but it's a start. She realized she was talking about her passion, her ambition, for the first time without apology or doubt. And Jamie wasn't just listening. He was engaged, asking focused, intelligent questions. That's incredible, Ellie. Truly. That little girl with the broken ankle who climbed the highest oak, she's finally got her feet under her. He knew that story because her father, George, had shared it with him one day outside the old house. The shared history felt comforting, not intrusive. Thank you, Jamie. And thank you for the distance. I really needed to sit in the quiet for a while and learn what my own voice sounds like without the echoes of his. And what does it sound like? He asked. His voice low. Ellie paused, looking at the coffee swirling in her cup. It sounds busy and determined, and occasionally very tired. but it sounds like mine. And sometimes, it sounds like it might be ready to ask someone else for a second opinion on a good poetry recommendation. Jamie's smile broadened. Welcome back, Ellie. I knew you'd find your way. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper, a hand-drawn map. I found a little bookstore near Lake Union that hosts a writing workshop. Just an idea. No pressure. She took the map. It wasn't a push for a date. It was a suggestion for growth. It was an invitation to her own next chapter. The meaningful conclusion. Life, dear friend, is rarely about one grand, dramatic confrontation. It's about the quiet, persistent acts of self-reclamation. Ellie's story is a powerful reminder that healing is not passive. It is an active choice to build boundaries, to choose purpose over performance, and to step away from spaces that require you to be small. The strength you need to face the future isn't a gift given to you. It's a muscle you must use, day in and day out, in the small acts of saying no to the past and yes to your most authentic self. You are the architect of your peace. Start building. If Ellie's journey from perfect prison to purposeful peace resonates with you, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. Share it with someone who is currently building their fence. Part 6. Building the vision. The small, folded map that Jamie had given Ellie led her to a cozy, slightly musty bookstore near Lake Union. It wasn't just a writing workshop. It was a gathering of local nonprofit founders and community leaders brainstorming solutions for the city's housing and family crisis. Ellie, usually nervous in large professional settings, felt a surge of energy. This was her element, talking about the real work, not the glossy pretense of Ethan's corporate world. She spent the next 2 months pouring every spare moment into developing her proposal for a transitional family shelter, the true realization of her college dream. She named it the Phoenix Home, a place for families to rise from the ashes of disruption. The unexpected partner. One late afternoon, Ellie was hunched over her laptop at a public library, surrounded by stacks of grant applications, when her phone buzzed. It was Ethan. Ellie, I need to talk to you about Leo's school district change. He's thriving, and I want to support that. Sure, text me the details, she replied, bracing herself for another attempt to sway her back to the old, more expensive neighborhood. No, I mean about something else, something I saw. She agreed to meet him briefly at a coffee shop near his office. When Ethan arrived, he wasn't wearing his usual tailor-made suit, but a simple business casual outfit. A new, noticeable attempt at humility. I saw your name on a city council document, he began, pushing his untouched latte aside. A proposal for a family shelter. The Phoenix Home? Ellie stiffened, instantly guarded. It's a passion project. It has nothing to do with you. Wait, he held up a hand. I'm not here to mock it. I'm here because I remember this. You used to talk about this incessantly in college, right? Before everything. Yes, she said flatly. And it was always dismissed as impractical by my partner. I was wrong, Ethan admitted, the words sounding heavy, as if he had to physically push them out. I was terrified of failure, so I tried to control everyone, including your dreams. I saw the budget you submitted. It's ambitious, but you missed a key element, the private donor connection. He slid a heavy, embossed business card across the table. It belonged to the director of the Vance Family Foundation, a major philanthropic entity in Seattle, an organization Ellie knew Ethan's firm often consulted with, but one that was entirely independent of his business. They specialize in seed funding for community projects with a strong exit strategy, Ethan explained. Your plan for job training and self-sufficiency? That's exactly what they look for. I can't write you a check, and you wouldn't take it if I did. But I can introduce you to the director, Sarah. I'll make the call and set up the meeting. No strings attached. You get all the credit. Ellie stared at the card, speechless. This wasn't the controlling, manipulative Ethan she knew. This was a man using his leverage for good, simply because she had dared to be true to herself. "Why?" she finally asked. Her voice barely a whisper. He met her gaze, his hazel eyes sincere. "Because I need Leo to see me respect you, and because I need to do one thing right that isn't about my bottom line. Take the meeting, Ellie. This is your chance to build something real." She picked up the card, the paper cool beneath her fingers. This unexpected act of support, entirely separate from their shared child, was more healing than she could have imagined. Do you believe Ethan's offer is a genuine sign of change, or is it a hidden attempt to win back Ellie's approval? What should Ellie say to him? Comment below. The call that wasn't about breakfast the next week was a whirlwind of preparing for the meeting with the foundation. Ellie postponed her Tuesday breakfast, but she texted Jamie. "Ellie, hey, need to cancel Tuesday. I got an introduction to the Vance Family Foundation. Pitching the Phoenix home." Jamie, "That's huge, Ellie. Focus on the mission, not the money. The heart sells the vision." His simple, encouraging response grounded her. He remained her gentle, unpressuring cheerleader from a distance. The meeting with the foundation was grueling, but successful. Ellie's passion, the same fierce, unapologetic energy that had intimidated Ethan years ago, won them over. They awarded the Phoenix home a substantial planning grant, enough to secure the land and hire initial staff. Her dream was real. A few days later, Ellie was celebrating her triumph by eating pizza with Leo on the floor of her living room. The doorbell rang. It was Jamie. He stood there, holding 2 containers of takeout, one with fresh gourmet coffee, the other with a piece of blueberry pie. "I know it's not Tuesday," he said, a quiet amusement in his eyes, "but I had a feeling you might need a little non-Tuesday celebration." "Jamie, what are you doing here?" she asked, surprised but welcoming him inside. "The truth," he admitted, walking past her to place the pie on the kitchen counter. "I was driving by the library where we met, and I saw a woman who looked exactly like you walk out with the biggest, most relieved smile I've ever seen. I figured that meant the Phoenix was flying." He turned back to her. "I'm proud of you, Ellie. You didn't just rebuild your life. You're rebuilding someone else's. That takes courage." Ellie looked at him, her friend, her gentle anchor, and saw the difference between his presence and Ethan's. Ethan tried to control the storm. Jamie simply sat through it with her, waiting patiently for the sun. "Thank you, Jamie," she said, her voice filled with genuine warmth. "For the pie, for the coffee, and for teaching me that the best kind of support is the kind that has no expectation." Leo, wiping pizza sauce from his face, ran up to Jamie and hugged his leg. "Mr. Jamie, Mom said you're the best at fixing things. Can you help me fix my dinosaur's broken horn?" Jamie knelt down to Leo's level, his gaze meeting Ellie's over the top of Leo's head. "I think," he said to Leo, "your mom is the best at fixing things, but I can definitely help with a dinosaur horn." The new family dynamic was messy, unconventional, and entirely real. It wasn't the perfect picture Ethan had tried to paint, but it was honest. Ellie's story teaches us that the most profound changes often come from the most unexpected places. Her breakthrough didn't happen in a courtroom. It happened when she dared to pursue her passion, forcing her ex-husband to acknowledge her value outside of their marriage. Remember this: you don't need permission to pursue your purpose. When you focus on building your true self, your authenticity will not only heal you, but will, sometimes unexpectedly, challenge and transform those around you. The courage to pursue your dreams is the greatest gift you can give your children and yourself. Part 7. The true test of partnership 1 year later. Ellie's world was a whirlwind of purpose. The Phoenix home had broken ground, a beacon of hope rising from a vacant lot near Lake Union. She was no longer just a case coordinator. She was the founder and executive director, balancing construction blueprints with fundraising events and the demanding schedule of a 7-year-old. Her relationship with Jamie had evolved naturally. Their Tuesday breakfast had returned, but it wasn't a date. It was a sanctuary, a 20-minute download of professional challenges and shared humor. He remained a source of quiet support, never demanding, always present. The financial pressure, the success of the initial grant brought immense pressure. During a critical funding review, Ellie discovered a massive, unexpected gap in the construction budget. A subcontractor had filed for bankruptcy, leaving a void that threatened the project's timeline and reputation. Panic clawed at her. This wasn't just her dream. It was the future for dozens of families. She spent 3 sleepless nights running through scenarios, convinced she would have to go back to the foundation, admitting failure. On the 3rd morning, exhausted, she walked into the cafe on Tuesday. "You look like you've been fighting a bear," Jamie observed, pushing a travel mug into her hands. Ellie laid out the crisis, the shame of potentially failing overwhelming her. "I don't know where to turn, Jamie. I can't let this fall apart." Jamie listened, then simply said, "You are brilliant at what you do, Ellie. You know the human budget. But this is a corporate puzzle. You need a corporate mind who knows how to restructure debt and bridge finance." "I know, but I won't ask Ethan for money," she stated immediately. "I know that," Jamie said calmly. "But you're not asking for money. You're asking for advice from the best corporate finance brain you know. He knows the Seattle market, and he knows how foundations react. Call him as an advisor, not a savior. It's a business transaction, Ellie, and you deserve to succeed." Jamie's suggestion was pragmatic, not emotional. It centered the conversation on her professionalism, not their past. The final reckoning, Ellie called Ethan later that day. She was strictly professional, outlining the financial problem and the tight deadline. Ethan, now visibly more humble from his ongoing therapy, listened intently. "That's standard predatory practice," he noted. "The foundation will see this as mismanagement if you don't act fast." He didn't offer to fix it, but he offered his expertise. "I will connect you with a specialist from my old firm. My replacement, actually. He's the best. I will also run an audit of the subcontractor's balance sheet and find the legally cleanest way for you to sever the contract without penalty. Send me the documents." "Why are you doing this, Ethan?" Ellie asked, still wary. "Because the foundation's director told me the Phoenix home is the most promising project they've seen in years, and she said it's all down to your vision. I am helping the Phoenix home, Ellie, and Leo is going to drive by that building every week. I need to be able to tell him I supported his mother's success, not tried to sabotage it." Ellie accepted the help. Over the next 72 hours, she worked with Ethan's contact and used the audit he provided. The crisis was averted, the debt restructured, and the project saved. She had used her ex-husband's strength, his mind, without compromising her independence. "Thank you, Ethan," she texted him. "The solution was clean and efficient. The foundation is happy." Ethan: "Good. Send Leo my love. He's excited about seeing the Phoenix home construction site." It was the first time they had truly partnered, not as a couple, not as combatants, but as 2 high-functioning professionals committed to a shared future, the well-being of their son, which now included his mother's success. The final chains of the perfect prison had truly dissolved. Do you think Ellie and Ethan can ever move past co-parenting into a genuine, respectful friendship? Or should they maintain their professional distance? Share your thoughts. The meaningful conclusion. Dear friend, Ellie's ultimate victory wasn't just securing a building. It was in realizing that true independence means using all the resources at your disposal, even the painful ones, without letting them define you. She learned that strength is not about self-isolation. It's about the confidence to ask for help without losing your power. By setting boundaries, she forced Ethan to see her as an equal, allowing him to contribute to her life in the only healthy way he knew how, with professional respect. Your healing is complete when you can utilize the lessons of your past to fuel the successes of your future without letting the pain hold you hostage. Continue to build your Phoenix home, my friend. Part 8. The Grand Opening and a New Horizon. 18 months after Ellie first saw that devastating text message, the day of the Phoenix home dedication arrived. The site, once a vacant lot, now stood as a beautiful, modern transitional shelter, designed not just for housing, but for empowerment. Sunlight streamed through the large open windows, illuminating a plaque near the entrance with the names of the key supporters. Eleanor Vance, founder and executive director, shone brightly at the top, the true meaning of success. Ellie stood near the podium, adjusting her blazer. She felt a profound sense of peace. This success wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about proving herself right. Leo, now 9, stood by her side, clutching a program. He was excited, but also deeply proud. "Mom," he whispered, looking up at the large sign. "This is better than Spider-Man's headquarters." Ellie laughed. "It's a different kind of superhero headquarters, sweetie. It's where families get their superpowers back." As the crowd gathered, Ellie noticed Ethan and his father, George, standing respectfully near the back. Ethan looked genuinely moved, perhaps seeing a physical manifestation of the woman he had tried to suppress. He was there purely as a supporting parent, no entourage, no corporate facade. He simply nodded at her, acknowledging the magnitude of her achievement. Ellie's mom, Martha, beamed, holding a tiny, thriving rose bush she'd grown from a cutting of the original one. "This is what happens when you stop watering weeds, Elle," she murmured. "You get to grow your own garden." Then a familiar figure approached. Jamie. He wasn't in his usual flannel, but a crisp, well-fitting suit, a rare nod to formality. He held a small, beautifully bound copy of a poetry book. "I told you the heart sells the vision," he said, his eyes filled with warmth and pride. "It's magnificent, Ellie. This is your oak tree, finally fully grown." "Thank you, Jamie. Truly. For everything," she said. He handed her the book. "This is for your new office. It's not a business resource. It's a reminder that beauty and strength can live in the same place." Taking the next step. The dedication ceremony was perfect, filled with genuine emotion, hope, and stories of resilience. As it wrapped up, and the guests began to tour the facility, Jamie found Ellie again. "Look," he began, his tone serious but gentle. "I know our rule, no pressure, and I respect your garden's fence, but you're standing inside your finished fortress, Ellie. You've fought the battle, you've won the war, and you are magnificent." He paused, taking a visible deep breath. "The truth is, I haven't been waiting just to cheer you on. I've been waiting for the right moment to ask you something that is completely separate from your past and entirely about your future." He didn't pull out a ring or make a grand pronouncement. He simply asked, "Would you be willing to trade our Tuesday breakfast for a Saturday dinner? No agenda. Just us. As two people who are finally whole." Ellie looked out over the crowd, at Leo laughing with his grandfather, at her thriving shelter, and at Ethan having a relaxed, co-parenting conversation with a staff member. She felt the quiet confidence that came from knowing exactly who she was. She met Jamie's gaze, her eyes, once empty, now bright with a self-assured light. "I think, Jamie," she said, a wide smile spreading across her face, "that I've waited long enough to write this next chapter. The Phoenix home is ready, and so am I." "Saturday dinner," he confirmed, his relief palpable. "I know a place with excellent pie." As they talked, Ellie watched Leo rush up to his father. Ethan crouched down, and instead of asking about his report card or a schedule, he simply pointed at the building. "Your mom built that, Leo. She built a home for people who need a second chance. That took incredible courage." Leo looked at the shelter, then back at his father, his eyes wide. She's a superhero, Dad, he announced. Ellie knew in that moment that she hadn't just secured her own future. She had successfully modeled for her son what real strength and respect looked like. She had shown him that a family doesn't need to be perfect to be powerful, and that the only prison that matters is the one you build for yourself. The final lesson from Eleanor Vance's journey is this: your ultimate redemption is not about finding a new love. It is about reclaiming your lost purpose. Ellie's story reminds us that true independence is not the act of leaving. It is the act of building something new that is entirely your own. When you stop living life as a reaction to past hurts and start creating it as an expression of your true values, you become whole. And when you are whole, you attract relationships that honor that completeness, not ones that seek to fill your void. Be the architect, be the gardener, be the phoenix. Si la historia de transformación de Ellie te ha conmovido, dale me gusta a este video, compártelo y comenta abajo el nombre de la casa Fénix que estás construyendo. Y suscríbete al canal para más historias inspiradoras.